Welcome to Frisella's All Around the Yard. I am your host, Tony Frisella, along with a special guest, our retail manager, Laura Hill. Laura, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You're just back from vacation, so you're beaming, right?
Yeah, right. Nice
Couldn't wait to
and
get back,
rested.
right?
Right.
Get back in the dirt?
Definitely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today we want to talk to you about some summer gardening tips. Because if you're like me, and most of you probably aren't, your yard's a mess. You have all the good intentions of getting out in the yard. You're going to have, oh my gosh, I'm at the best garden this year. Best garden. I've been telling myself that for 6 years now. Your cedar boxes literally have more crabgrass than they do anything resembling a vegetable or a flower, or even your container plantings for that matter. You looked outside and you can't tell where your lawn and your landscape meets or ends. I said so. We're going to talk about some of those things. There's a lot out there, and I will say, literally, I was out there. Some of you guys might not like this, but I was out there with a little can of Roundup myself, just trying to. Hey, you know what? I need an easy button. That was my easy button.
Sure.
So, yeah. So usually twice a year I do pretty heavy weeding, and this year I just don't have any time to weed. So the weeds are just not tall enough to where I could not have to weed eat them, and hopefully this weekend we'll be able to do some damage and get things looking back up to snuff. So, anyways, a couple of things that we'll just jump right into here is weeds. Everybody's probably struggling with them in some cases.
It's not just you. Just you. And everyone thinks that I let the weeds get on top of me. I didn't stay on top of it. It happens to everyone, especially when we have the summer rains that we've had. When you get summer rains like we've had, you get summer weeds. That's part of the process. So just not getting overwhelmed with it is the biggest portion. Staying on top of it, planning ahead, pre-emergent, putting down your mulch, things like that are going to help in the long run. If you have let them get on top of you and you're not a Roundup fan, there's a lot of really nice natural alternatives. Two of the ones that we speak highly of in the garden center are the Bonide Captain Jack's Deadweed Brew, which is a new one. I believe it debuted on the market last year. People are seeing really great results from that one. And also Burnout. Both of those are all natural. You don't have to worry about using the heavy chemicals with those two. And Bonide makes great organic gardening alternatives like that. So, if you do feel like you've let the weeds get ahead of you, those are two products that can help you catch up quickly.
So the only organic thing that I ever knew of was vinegar, vinegar and soap solution.
Yeah.
Now I've never tried it. I've been always meaning to go to the store, buy some vinegar, and just put some soap and water mixed up to see what would happen.
Right.
But have you personally used any of those products?
I've done the Burnout. When we moved into our house last year, the weeds were just the couple that owned the house before us had been out for several months, and the weeds were just a nightmare. And Burnout works. I mean, it really does. It's it has a lot of oil based, so it literally burns the weeds out in the sun. It works really well. But I'm interested in the Captain Jack's Deadweed Brew, just because it's supposed to be a more potent solution. You're supposed to see Roundup like results where within 12 hours the weeds are dead.
Wow.
So I'm interested to see how
I'd be very interested. Yeah, very interested.
It has really great reviews. I have not used it personally yet, but the organic products are really they're expanding their reach at this point. We're seeing a lot of new products roll out, or like reformulations of old products that they're revisiting now because so many people are interested in going the non-chemical route. So.
Definitely a bigger push,
especially around your edibles, things like that. You don't want to.
And I don't spray around my garden.
Sure.
You'll see the brown stuff browning out, but staying green around all the gardens.
Right.
I just don't want anything even close to that.
Yeah,
so.
But these products, a lot like the like Revitalize and things like that, you can use them within close proximity. You can plant on top of them once you're done. You can use them around edibles, and it's not a concern.
Still just as deadly to plants?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just just make sure we're checking on that
one.
Yeah,
they do. I mean, and that's one of the things that you have to be considerate of when you're spraying around established beds and things like that, obviously, is overspray. You don't want to spray on a windy day or anything like that, because any of that residue that gets on your landscape material, it's going to burn it.
It's just on the foliage, though. It's not the trunks.
Yes.
So and that's one thing that everybody was always afraid to spray around trees. It's like, oh, I just don't want to kill the tree. It's like, it's not going to kill the tree. It's going to kill anything with a leaf around the tree. But unless you get it sprayed 60 foot in the air, it's not going to hurt the tree.
Right. Foliar spray.
Yep.
They are foliar spray.
And one thing, another point on the weeds looking more ominous than they actually are is, like, you let them get big. Like, it's usually just one weed that's huge. It looks like it's so much more. And if you just kind of, pull back the branches, find that root and pull it up, you pull out just a monstrosity of a plant.
And then you have a hole this big.
Exactly. It's like, oh, wow, that took a lot of square foot in just no time. So that's the other thing to consider. Because other time I do the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all this crabgrass. And it's just a web of like a 2-foot patch of crabgrass that I just need to go pull that. And so, nut sedge. Still sedgehammer?
Yes, sedgehammer and sedge ender. Both of those are high-powered, high-velocity chemical products, but they take care of it. And if you have ever dealt with the nightmare of having nut sedge take over everywhere, you want something that works.
And sedgehammer, that seed can last up to 25 years.
Yes.
So even if it goes, this sedgehammer is what we've always used. Now, with the patent being gone away, there's a lot of other varieties of it now.
Brands,
yeah, exactly. But if you get it while it's going to seed, or while the seed or the nut is still on the plant, this will kill that as well. Anything that's in the ground, like you're susceptible to 25 years of just waiting to see if it pops up or not.
Right.
Now, little sprigs here and there, like you're not talking infestations. You're talking a few sprigs that can very easily be dealt with. So, I know I've noticed I've got groundhogs, deer, and rabbits.
Yeah.
And these groundhogs ate all my lettuce.
Groundhogs, voles, and moles, the trifecta of those are often confused. It doesn't really, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which one you have, because they all present pretty similar. You see the tunnels in the yard and the mounds and the little access holes and stuff like that, but they're
using my deck, so.
Your deck?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Brave.
Yeah,
they're brave.
Well, the two last year didn't make it. I don't know where these two came from. So, because I thought I cured my problem last year. Obviously, I invited more. Because there's like 5 between my neighbor's house and mine, between all the creeks and everything, the bridges. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, I'm the only one that does anything about them.
Do you have deer?
Oh, yeah.
Out there?
So, I was testing hostas. And so I put a few hostas out, and they were fine last year. And I was like, oh, look, they're flowering. And then I came home one night and they were eating. I'm like, because of that brand new house they built next to me.
All right. Yeah.
So frustrating, very frustrating. They're getting brave. Deer are getting really brave.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's always shocking to me, clients that we have like in the Ladue area and places like that, where, I mean, it's, you have heavily populated areas, even though they're large properties, and they cannot combat the deer. I mean, they're
on the front porch.
Yes, right.
Literally,
like they will
on the
literally
front porch.
walk across flower beds and stand on a brick front porch and eat whatever's there. It's just amazing.
So I know I've done a few videos before that we posted out on how to kind of protect your plants for deer. But like, what suggestions do you have out there? Somebody comes in to the garden center and talks to you. It's like, so something's eating my hostas, or something's eating this bush. What do you suggest?
So usually the frontline preventative is going to be a granular, something that you can apply. I'm not a huge fan of the sprays, just because with as much rain as we get here during the active feeding season, sprays you have to reapply. But something like a deer scram, the product that we use the most, it is a pelletized or it's kind of granular, more pelletized, but it combines dehydrated coyote urine and a bunch of different natural deterrents, and you place that out. It lasts through rain. That's the biggest plus of that particular product. But we also sell a product called Bob-X. Deer Scram or Bob-X, I stand behind both of them. They do work. Bob-X you have to reapply more often. But those two products are going to, you basically create a parameter around your property where they just they'll go elsewhere.
Yeah, and then still, if you're in a very heavy dense deer population, like look, like they're going to work less in those areas than they are out where we are, out in the county and the country, if you will.
Right. And then you're creating problems for your neighbors, because if you're deterring them from your yard, then they're going to go to other areas of your neighborhood.
I'm going to bite my tongue on that one for now.
Yeah, right. But also, I'm a huge proponent of just planting, even if you have things like established hosta beds, you can take the parameter of that bed, the border of that bed, and plant it with things like coral bells that are deer resistant. So the more likely they take the path of least resistance most of the time. So if they go to that flower bed and the first thing that they encounter is something that is deer resistant, there's a higher chance that they're going to move on and go somewhere else. So incorporating, even if you have established beds, incorporating some deer and rabbit resistant plants is always going to be a smart move.
So with planting, we're in the we call it the heat of the summer. We haven't really had much heat this year. I mean, I haven't seen, I've seen 100 degrees once or twice. That was it. Humidity has actually been relatively okay. Today's a little humid, but I mean, there's still a breeze.
Right.
We see some 90s coming this coming week. But even then, it's going to be
tolerable.
Hit and miss.
Right.
What should people be thinking about now? We're a couple weeks, a week and a half away from August, for the fall. Or is there still things that we should be planting now for summer color? So what do you see people asking for? Or if somebody came in and asked you, what would you suggest?
So my line of thought with summer plantings is, especially in our area, if you plant things during the summertime, things like blooming perennials, even some shrubs, because of the heat, it's almost like an activator. It gets those roots out and going. As long as you can maintain a proper watering schedule, obviously with the rains that we've had this summer, people have had a lot of success planting this summer because, the temperatures have been relatively mild and we've been getting consistent rain. So you don't have to, if your irrigation isn't active in that area or you don't have irrigation or anything like that, you're not constantly worried about it. What we've seen more often than not is people overwatering things because of the rain that we've been getting. So I always encourage people, especially perennial beds, go ahead and plant them. I mean, you're better off those plants getting in the ground than them sitting in nursery cans and waiting for the fall for the heat to break. And they've got a longer period before the frost where they can put those roots out.
Especially more native stuff, plants like yarrow.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Beautiful plants that are just going to take off.
Coneflowers, anything that's blooming right now.
A lot of your sedums also, they love it dry. They don't want to be bone dry, but they love it dry.
Right.
So that you're going to be much more susceptible to them, or much happier because they're be growing now than waiting until it gets cooler. They're going to start slowing down.
Right, and I always encourage people to visit the garden center because whatever is in bloom right now is what you should be thinking about. Like if you are missing summer blooms because you bought all of your plants in the early springtime, then you've got an entire flower bed that is not in its active blooming season right now. So anytime that you visit the garden center, we're going to be showcasing whatever is best for that time during the season. So if you come now and you see everything that's in bloom, you can go, oh, I don't have any of this color in my garden right now. And so that kind of gives you a palette to work off of. So
what about annuals?
Annuals right now, the best thing to do is to be cutting them back. Usually I'd recommend the end of spring, peak of summer, and beginning of fall. You want to shear your annuals back, and it's heartbreaking for so many people. They feel like they're just scalping their plants, and you're not. It is always shocking. If you're on a good fertilization schedule, it's always shocking how quickly they rebound after you cut them back. So trimming annuals back right now it's gonna pay off hand over fist, towards the end of summer. And I mean, that goes for just about, I don't know any annual really at this point that you wouldn't want to be cutting back, and use a good liquid fertilizer, either Espoma or Jack's fertilizer is what we recommend. And do it often, especially if we're getting a lot of rain. If they're out in the weather, you get nutrient wash out of your soil. Same thing for perennial beds and things like that. If we're getting tons of consistent rain, you want to make sure that you're supplementally feeding so that they have the bloom power and the staying power to make it through the rest of summer. But you get massive flushes of blooms if you'll keep those cut back and keep them maintained through the heat of summer.
So as we think about annuals and still in the kind of middle of the summer annual season, as we start to turn an eye towards fall, we are going to see some trees. There are some trees in August, like horse chestnuts, that you start to see lose leaves. Some of the sycamores, you start seeing drop leaves towards the end of summertime. Right. People start kind of thinking about, I guess there is another season coming. But should they be thinking about it now, or should they? What should people think about for the next season?
So you can.
Landscape-wise, you definitely should be thinking about it now.
Definitely,
if you're not too late.
Right, and especially with annuals and perennials both, there's a whole nother growing season that people don't even really consider, and even with vegetables, there's crops that you can plant right now and still get plenty of produce off of. Peppers, beans, things like that. They love the heat. They just flesh out during the heat of summer. So now is a great time to be thinking about changing out some of those crops in your vegetable gardens. For the fall, with annuals and perennials, rutabaga, coneflower, things like that are going to be fantastic showpieces in your garden for the fall. With annuals, usually people wait until pretty much the end of summer, and then you have mums, asters, annual rutabaga, things like that are going to be showpieces for your display type areas in your garden.
Good, awesome. Yeah. Anything with planters for the fall?
Oh gosh, yeah. We use some of my favorite plants are for the fall in mixed containers. The ornamental peppers. The cabbage and kale, cabbage and kale, the ornamental cabbage and kale. Some of them will get 1.5 feet, 2 feet across. They're gigantic, easy to grow, super easy. The only pest management that you really have to deal with, other than deer and rabbits, are slugs. You want to bait for slugs, especially if we've had a warm, wet summer like we've had this year. I foresee slugs and snails being an issue with
we just found a monster snail yesterday downstairs. Courtney was showing it to me.
Yeah.
So, is it relevant to everything going on in the world right now with shortages? We've experienced them a lot ourselves. Is there anything people should be getting ahead of that you're foreseeing that might be shortcoming in the fall before they start planting their garden?
Not necessarily. I think us particularly in the garden center, we've got reserves on good stock for fall crops. The only thing that I really foresee is we've got classes coming up in the fall. We've got a fall porch pot class, fall gardening class, some centerpiece classes and things like that as we get closer to the Thanksgiving season. We are foreseeing, because we're just starting our classes back up, I think those are going to sell out.
Those are huge.
And it's a great value. That's a big part of it, is like the fall porch pot class specifically. I think that's a $35 class. We sell those pots in the garden center as is for $50, and you're learning how to put them together and compose beautiful arrangements for the fall, and you get to take the pot home at the end of the session. So it's a really great value and a great learning experience. I mean,
bring some friends out.
Yeah, exactly. We have people who make it an event and just come out every year for those classes. So I think getting ahead of the game on those will be key for sure.
So is there anything else you want to add for anything, summer gardening tips that?
As we've talked about before in some of these podcasts, I always encourage people to take photos in your garden. Not only do we encourage people to tag us in their photos on social media, but it helps you create a kind of a catalog over the years of your progression in your garden. And it also helps you see, you take a photo in your garden, say you walked outside right now and took a photo. When you look back at that photo in the wintertime, you can tell, I should have used pre-emergent earlier in the year, or I need a evergreen interest here in this spot that I wouldn't have really noticed except I took these photos. So I always encourage people to take photos of their garden. It just it helps you to get kind of an outsider's perspective of your property.
Not only that, I mean, so if you're a client of ours and you're listening to this, or you listen to this, you're not a client of ours, we would love to talk about your garden.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have our own in our homes. We have our own here at the garden center, but everybody's different. And so I'm a people person. I love talking to different people.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing, we'd love talking about different gardens.
Right.
What works, what's your experiences, because that's how we learn also.
Absolutely.
You know, that's how we try, well, let's try this. This is something new. We'd love to try this. Why don't you take this and see what this does?
Mm-hmm.
It's a way for everybody to be better gardeners, to have more fun with what they're doing, to get more interest in everything going on. I mean,
Right.
it's makes its own little community. So it's definitely something we'd love to see as well. So take the
Definitely.
photos, bring them in.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
I think that about covered it. Planning for fall is a great thing to do at this point. It also kind of gives you something to look forward to. Everybody always kind of gets tired and overrun with weeds and things like that this time of year, and it's easy to kind of lose interest in your space. But if you are taking your eyes and putting them towards fall, it kind of gives you that excitement to plan for.
Oh, good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. You got a wealth of knowledge. If you haven't listened to any of our other podcasts that have had Laura on it, definitely go back and check them out because she puts a lot of great information out there for everybody to be really successful in their yards. Now, I want to close with, if you have any summer gardening questions, you can visit us at www.frisellanursery.com or call 636-798-2555. You can ask for Laura specifically, and otherwise we have a lot of just great talent down here, Juliana, and a number of other people down here that can just answer so many questions for you. We have classes and events that are coming back, so be sure to check us out again, frisellanursery.com/events. To sign up for those, you can sign up for those online. Follow us on social media at Frisella Nursery, both Facebook, Instagram. Like, subscribe. We want to, engage with you. We want to know what's going on. We want to know what's working, what's not working. As this is a passion of ours, as we know it is of yours. So please get with us, talk to us about what's going on, and until our next podcast, we will talk to you guys then.